Grand Rising. I had a quick question for any of the immigrants that have come to the United States. Why do you think somehow you get to talk about the black experience? Why do you get to talk about why do you think you get to talk about who should and should not get reparations? It's kind of funny when you hear people who've immigrated to this country talk about how black people should not get reparations because their people they currently have not served or been slaves. Now, when exactly did your parents fight here for your rights? When did your parents fight for your rights? When were you immigrants actually treated unfairly here in this country? When did your forefathers, you immigrant forefathers, when did they get treated as second class citizens here? When did your immigrant forefathers come and fight for the rights after they had been mistreated for hundreds of years? When did your immigrant parents work for free to build this country? Because, see, you're reaping benefits that your forefathers, your immigrant forefathers, never paid. Your immigrant forefathers never worked on plantations for free for hundreds of years. They were never sold into slavery. They were never chattel slavery. So, right, they did not build this country. So they always talk about how this is a country of immigrants, but the real people who built this country were not immigrants, because when the immigrants got here, the country was already built, and they told you just to come and, find your American dream, chase after your American dream. Why should you deserve an American dream when you did not go through the American nightmare? So it's funny when you see people. I'm gonna show you a quick little clip of a video. It talks about how, well, you black people were never slaves, so therefore why should you get reparations? Well, your parents never went through anything here in this country in order to establish it. So why should you be reaping benefits now? Why is it that you immigrants get to come over here and get free housing, free education, free medical, free food, free programs to help you build businesses? How is it possible for you to come here and within one generation you're able to buy property, keep those properties, and then hand those down to your children? How does that all work exactly? Oh, because, see, you joined Psalms 83, and you actually tell us what we deserve and how we don't deserve any kind of reparations, but you seem to be getting reparations. You seem to be getting special programs for something that your forefathers never paid for. So explain how that works, how we fight for civil rights, but then your family members come over here and actually get a chance to actually enjoy the civil rights that we fought for. How does that work exactly? And then how can you fix your mouth to sit there and tell us what it is that we deserve? See, again, you're just a mouthpiece of the Edomites. You see, they want to tell us how we built everything. They enjoy it, but then we don't deserve anything in recompense. And you come over here from another country and say exactly the same thing, while you're still getting, benefits that your parents never, they were never done wrong and never had to be repaid for. So you're actually receiving a reparation for, events that never happened to your forefathers. You're receiving benefits that your forefathers, your grandparents, parents never deserved. They never did. The other nations never did anything to them, so that they had to actually be paid back for. They didn't have to go through the things that we went through. So why should they be getting benefits here? So let's take a look at this little clip.
Never was a slave. Deserve compensation from a person that never owned a slave.
Why is the
Why is a person that never was a slave deserve compensation from a person that never owned a slave?
Why is the person who owes his entire existence in this country to slavery now speaking against owed reparations? Why is the person who is not black not minding his own business about the black issues that don't concern him? This is just another situation where one of these coattail riders who, without slavery, without the existence of black people in this country, without all of the civil rights victories that black people spearheaded, shed blood, and lost their lives for, would not be in this country. His ancestors would have never been able to immigrate to the United States if it weren't for the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965. Thanks again to Black Americans, Asian people could immigrate to the U.S., take out small business loans that were denied to Black people, and open up small businesses in Black neighborhoods, where some of those Asian immigrants perpetuated racism onto Black people, even though their American dream was made possible by Black people. You're welcome.
Our problems in entitlement and victims. Don't like that.
The freeloader that I'm responding to says that he was raised in a Black neighborhood. I'm curious if this is the way that he ended up in that Black neighborhood. The model minority myth was created to pit Asians against other marginalized groups, rewarding silence, obedience, and hard work with crumbs of white approval. And this coattail rider is the embodiment of it, exploiting Black struggle while groveling on his knees for validation from the very people who uphold his oppression.
Why does a person that never was a slave deserve compensation from a person that never owned a slave?
So again, this is all minority groups. You guys have been getting compensation for laws that we fought for and that were actually put into laws in 1965, and you've been able to actually, benefit from all of that. But you have the nerve to sit here and fix your face and say things about us and being freeloaders when you are freeloading on everything that happened to us, but you get the benefits from. Because again, before in the early 1900s, 1800s, 1700s, 1600s, where were you at? Where were you being exploited? How were you being exploited? You weren't. You were not. Remember, we were the ones that were deemed chattel slavery. You're the ones that were fighting to be considered white. So therefore you had to be treated, as a human being, and the laws would actually work for you somewhat. So please explain to me how it is that people come here, get their opportunities to go to school, get money, get food, go to school. When could we go to other people's countries and do that? We couldn't, because the same racist policies that were here in America started in 1492, when the Spaniards got here. They just pretty much kept with the same racist policies over and over again. I said, so again, in 1502, when they went ahead and started the slavery and pretty much making so-called Negro people chattel slavery, animals, and then everyone else fought to be considered white, so therefore they would have upper mobility in the system. How is it that today, when you've been able to actually have upward mobility, you've been able to actually get loans that were not supposed to be for you, benefits that were not supposed to be for you, still sit here and talk about how we don't deserve this when you are getting everything that you do not deserve? Show me exactly how you deserve all of these benefits when you come to America. Show me exactly how you deserve it. What did your forefathers do in order for you to be able to get these benefits today? What ill things or horrible things happened to your forefathers here in this country that pretty much lets you get to the front of the line while we continue to be in the back of the line? Because our forefathers were the ones that paid the price, and blood, sweat, and tears. And then you get the benefits, but then you sit there and tell us what we deserve and what we don't deserve. I mean, again, that's Psalms 83 to the T. How they're all going to come together and they're going to pretty much make us forget who we are. Just like it talks about in Jeremiah 17:4, we're going to lose our heritage. We lost our heritage, and everyone else got a piece of our heritage. It wasn't just lost, then it was given to everybody else. All the benefits that we were supposed to have gotten, you got. Go read Jeremiah 17:4. We were discontinued from our heritage. That's how you were able to come over here, and all the things that we were supposed to have received, you got. And just same thing with the pretendians. That's why they're so upset now, because again, the only way all this works was when we accepted an identity that wasn't ours. Being colored, being black, being African American, and all of a sudden we're FBAs, Foundational Black Americans. Everything but the child of the Most High. That's what we get. Everything but a child of the Most High. But see, now that we've awakened, as you can see, everything that you guys are now been pushing doesn't work anymore. And every time you guys try to push these people out here to come out here and say these things, it's very evident what they're doing. They're covering up for you because that was the payoff. They give you our heritage, you lie and say, how lazy we are. But that stuff will not work anymore. Shalom.